the crew of the nebula mingled with the townsfolk, exploring the vibrant settlement until the sun dipped below the horizon. The evening air buzzed with excitement, signaled by the lively melodies that filled the streets. It was not just the throngs of people that drew everyone toward the town square, but the enchanting sounds that echoed throughout the area. Flutes, drums, and strings came together in a delightful harmony. What felt like a familiar form of celebration to the humans was a bewildering explosion of energy for the crew of the nebula. As they ventured closer to the source of the raucous music, they were met with a sight that left them even more astonished. "Are they fighting?" one crew member whispered, squinting to get a better look. "Surely not." "Maybe they're being chased by something," another suggested. "A predator?" "One of those wolves," a third chimed in, glancing nervously around. However, as they observed the scene, it became apparent that there were no predators involved, nor were the humans attacking one another. Instead, it was a joyous display of movement, great, energetic leaps and bounds. The crew watched in awe as more and more humans joined the fray, hopping, running, and twirling. Every action seemed exaggerated, like a jubilant exclamation of joy manifested in physical form. Many were hooting and cheering, throwing themselves into the festivities. As the crowd thickened, the townspeople gradually filtered into the celebration area, leaving the crew to form a hesitant cluster at the edge of the action. A palpable tension hung in the air until Deeg, Tunny T, and Gareth stepped forward, cutting through the uncertainty. Deeg met the curious gazes of his crew with a raised paw, signaling them to remain calm. Just then, a loud voice rang out above the music. "Hello? Hello? Can everyone hear me?" The elder mayor of the town had stepped onto a table beneath the sprawling branches of a large tree. Her voice was amplified through speakers strategically placed around the area. The crowd erupted into cheers before quieting down, allowing the music to shift to a softer background hum. "All right, excellent. I don't want to interrupt the festivities too much, but I just wanted to express how thrilled I am to celebrate another year with all of you. I am immensely proud of what we've accomplished together. Though many may not view the act of tending to trees and dirt as particularly glorious, I wholeheartedly disagree. Our parents and grandparents painstakingly planted life on this once barren planet, and now we nurture that legacy. I believe that is one of the most noble pursuits one can undertake. Now, before I indulge in one of those delicious pies, I have one last announcement. I'd like to officially invite the wonderful crew of the Blue Nebula to join us in this celebration." She gestured toward the crew, and the crowd's attention shifted toward them. If we've learned anything from our time caring for nature, it's that life is a system undeniably interconnected. Life from another planet is just more life. So come, dance, eat, and enjoy yourselves. The townsfolk erupted in a thunderous cheer. Although the enthusiastic reception might have seemed overwhelming at first, the crew had become somewhat accustomed to human exuberance over the past few days. Nevertheless, many crew members hesitated, only taking a few tentative steps forward. Deeg noticed the uncertainty among his crew. Thwill, One of the few who had remained with the ship peeked out from behind him. After several attempts to step forward, he retreated, clearly torn. "Well, it's a celebration. Let's go," Deed shouted, turning to stride boldly into the throng. Tunny T and Gareth followed closely behind, and slowly but surely the rest of the crew began to join them, even Thwill. As the outsiders entered the celebration, the townsfolk erupted in another cheer, the music transitioning back to an upbeat dancing tune, and the festivities fully commenced. Eager to explore the culinary delights, Tunny T sought out the local foods. Over the past few days, their conversations with the townspeople had frequently circled back to the amazing array of dishes on offer during the celebrations. The humans promised a veritable cornucopia of Terran delicacies, and Tunny T was keen to study Terran dietary requirements and the cooking methods shaped by those needs. Deed trailed behind his science officer, less interested in the biology lessons and more excited about tasting the food. With his penchant for adventurous eating, it would be wise for Tunny T to keep him in check regarding potentially toxic ingredients. Meanwhile, Gareth veered away from his two friends, weaving through the towering crowds in search of the one human he recognized among this sea of energetic revelers. Despite the humans' attempts to accommodate their smaller guests, he still found himself jostled a few times in his search. Frustrated, he finally spotted the familiar face amidst the throng. It was her hair that caught his eye, shorter than most and a distinctive color that set her apart. As he approached her, currently seated on a bench with her back resting against the table, a hefty man stumbled into him, nearly knocking him off his feet. Thankfully, the man had the presence of mind to shift his weight, saving Gareth from a fall. He caught himself and took a moment to regain his balance. "Sorry there, little fella," the man bellowed, a glass in hand filled with the potent drink humans favored. "Maybe I should put this down for a bit and grab a plate, eh?" "Ha ha ha." His belly shook with laughter as he moved toward another table. He was met by a group of friends who raised their glasses in a toast. He responded in kind, apparently forgetting his own suggestion, and downed his beer. Gareth scoffed, simmering in his distaste, and turned to find Penn observing the entire scene, one leg crossed over the other. She was watching the man, but quickly met Gareth's gaze as he approached. "Don't read too much into it," she said with a hint of amusement. He meant no disrespect. If anything, the fact that everyone feels comfortable enough to indulge is a good sign. Among humans, sharing a meal or a drink is one of the oldest signs of mutual respect. I was under the impression it took more than a few minutes of consuming alcohol to succumb to the deleterious effects. "Ah, you'd be right. I suspect he got a head start with his size. We call that pre-gaming." She tilted her head slightly as she glanced over at the man. I see. Are you partaking in the festivities?" Gareth inquired, curiosity etched on his face. "I am," she replied, raising her left hand to show off a frosty glass similar to the man's. "Though I don't plan on ending up like him." She set the glass down and motioned for him to sit beside her on the bench. Gareth hopped up, his feet barely brushing the ground. "And what about dancing?" he asked, glancing at the lively crowd. They both looked out at the throngs of people moving in sync with the music. Some danced with partners, while others formed rings around solo performers. Regardless of the style, it was clear the people were losing themselves in the music. "Oh, probably not." "Certainly not without a few more of these in me," she replied, lifting her glass again. One man spun another out in a grand twirl before they both completed a 360 and came back together, laughter erupting from their fellow dancers. "That seems counterintuitive to me. Your people's dancing appears quite physically demanding. Why drink something that impairs your balance before doing something that requires it?" Gareth questioned, genuine confusion in his tone. "Courage," Penn replied simply. "You leap from the backs of ships but find a bit of controlled movement intimidating?" Gareth raised an eyebrow. "It's not the movement, dude. Not that I'm much of a dancer, at all. But, look, I'm perfectly content to sit and enjoy the music, food, and drink. The social aspect, then. Something like that. The Admiralty tried inviting me to various functions. Suffice to say, they eventually stopped. I picked up a few of the more formal dances, but it didn't really do much for me other than earn me a few scornful looks." "I see. Well, if you don't mind the company, I suspect I won't be dancing either." "I'd prefer not to be trampled," Gareth said with a playful grin. "Happy to have the conversation. We can people watch and judge them." Penn chuckled, her tone lightening. "Ha! That sounds delightful," Gareth replied, his spirits lifting. Penn shifted her plate to face Gareth, digging into her food. He couldn't help but notice her less than ceremonious manner of eating. It was refreshing to see her so relaxed, a stark contrast to the guarded demeanor she displayed when they first met. He winced at the memory of his own cold reception of her. "You want some?" she asked, offering her eating plate. Her plate was piled high with enough food to satisfy Gareth several times over, not accounting for their different biological needs. Let's see." He pulled up the data file Tunny T had shared with the crew about Terran foods. In a controlled environment, some of the dishes were safe to eat, if not particularly nutritious, but the town had prepared much of it together. Given the possibility of cross-contamination, it was probably not the best idea. "Well, I can drink the water, probably," he replied hesitantly. "I'm sorry," Penn responded, concern creeping into her voice. "It's all right. Nothing here seems particularly appetizing to me," Gareth admitted with a shrug. "All right, now you've gone too far," she exclaimed dramatically, feigning shock. "This brisket smells divine. Because it contains many things your body needs, not much for me at all. Quite the opposite, actually." "What do Wylands eat, then?" she inquired, genuinely curious. I can survive on containers of farmed single-celled organisms from Wylia's oceans, but a proper meal would be a good algae and fruit salad. There's a restaurant back home that serves the most amazing, How to describe it? You would probably compare it to a small gelatin cake, but they come from this organism that... What? Pen interrupted, her expression turning comically horrified. Clearly, we have different definitions of appetizing, Gareth chuckled, finding her reaction amusing. They're really quite good. Especially with these. Well, they're like little worms with legs that... All right. That's enough of that. I'm trying to eat. She laughed, holding up her hand as if to ward him off. Fine. Gareth raised his hands in mock surrender, a grin plastered across his face. Pen noted what she recognized as a playful grin on his face, a welcome change from his usual seriousness. Ass,